I guess I'm to Neil. We were trying to find a picture that looked good of us, and we couldn't find one.
That's what we came up with.
Yeah, that's what we came up with there. All right, guys. Well, so we're glad you're here. We were actually really excited. We went back and forth about what we wanted to talk about, and unfortunately, there's so much we wanted to talk about that Dr. Sherry, before we came out, he said we could have 4 hours of material, and I said, I bet you that you will pay them $1 for every minute, each person $1 for every minute we go over tonight.
We're not going over tonight.
So you guys are going home before 12, okay? So I'm glad you guys are here. That was our cutoff. We said not 12 o'clock. All right, so we're going to get started, but I want to get our mindset right for this tonight, okay? And so I think the biggest challenge that I run into, we talk about like as far as health, is our identity, right? Unfortunately, most people identify themselves as either a sick person or a healthy person. You ever realize that? Like we're either healthy or sick. So what if tomorrow morning you woke up in the hospital, okay? You had no idea who you were. And standing around your bed were Navy SEALs. And they're like, Sarge, you're back. You okay? But you had no recollection of who you were. And I said, Sarge, you've won the Medal of Honor. You've saved all of us countless times. We need you back. When are you coming back? What would you do? You'd be like, oh, I can't do burpees. I don't know how to run, right? Because you'd have this identity of being a Navy SEAL. You'd pick up a gun and you'd say, well, I don't quite know what to do with it, but I know it's in here somewhere and I'll figure it out, right? Like you would approach this, and probably you could be back as a Navy SEAL within the year with a full confidence belief that that's who you were, that's what your identity was. What about this? What about as a healthy person? If you woke up tomorrow morning and somewhere someone was telling you that you're the healthiest person that you know, right? That you're the strongest person, that you're doing this because you're the best mother, the father, sister, brother, aunt, cousin, uncle, right? What if you changed your identity as I'm a healthy person? And guess what healthy people do? You would pick up different weapons. You'd be picking up that weapon of the food that you eat and the movement that you put into your body. That's what tonight's about. It's about arming you and helping you change your identity and help you have a different plan moving forward there. So tonight's about waking up, right? You heard about woke. This is about wake up, okay? We're trying to wake you up because a lot of times we're just in this coma state going through life, drifting, thinking that nothing's going to matter, and everything that we do matters until we get into a crisis, and then we're like, what do we do? Well, here's the thing. Tonight's about the red pill or the blue pill. Anybody ever seen The Matrix? Right? And like if you don't, you can literally not hear a single word that we say tonight, and you can go on with your life the way that you are. And remember, the average person out there, and we're going to go over this in a second, is sick and suffering, and they're depressed, and they got autoimmune disease issues, and they have heart disease and cancer. Like, that's what's normal. That's the people that have taken the blue pill. But we want you to take the pill. So that's for you, Dr. Sherry.
Okay, so when we were
By the way,
about...
we decided the other thing we wanted to do is get dressed up for you tonight. Right?
Trying to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, when we sat and talked about this one, I like this talk because over the years, as I think of health, I always think like, uh-oh, I don't know about you guys, but like, uh-oh, here it comes, right? Here come the holidays. Here comes all the sugar. Here comes all the food. And I always challenge myself, like, okay, am I going to get through? You gotta get through. It's like running the hurdles, right? It's like, okay, first you have Halloween, all the candy, and then they really hammer you with Thanksgiving and all the pies. And then, boom, the big one hits for Christmas. And so I always try to challenge myself, like, can I get through the holidays successful? And I'll tell you guys the truth. There are some years, New Year's comes, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, I crushed it. I did great. Like, I didn't have pie on Thanksgiving. I did really well. And then there's other years where all hell breaks loose. And on January, I think, God, I did horrible. Like, I seem to eat anything they put in front of me. And so we started looking and thought, what a better thing to talk about than sugar and stress, because that really defines the holidays and it really affects our health. And so I was doing this research for this. I took a look and I kind of stumbled across this on the quarantine, what we just went through. So I was looking up holidays, but I stumbled across the quarantine studies. And Harvard Publishing reported that they did a survey of 15 million Americans. So this is not a small survey. They looked at their electronic health records and reviewed it. They found out that almost 40% of Americans gained weight while we were in quarantine. 27% of them reported less than 12 pounds. Over 10% reported over 12 pounds. And 2% of people almost gained 30 pounds while they're in quarantine. Mind-blowing the amount of weight gain that happened due to how much stress. And what I'm going to show you, I'll touch on, we have so much to go through this, guys, that we're going to miss a lot of stuff. But one thing that sugar does is it hits your pleasure center in your brain, and it makes things feel better. So stress makes you freak out. Sugar makes you feel good, and it's addictive, right? And it brings pleasure to you, so it de-stresses you. So as we get stressed, it's normal for us to go eat. It's normal for us to go crave sugar, and that's what happens. The American Psychological Association reported over 3,000 people they surveyed. 42% of them said they had gained, quote, too much weight, and they estimated almost 30 pounds was the average. 1 out of 10 people thought they got about 50 pounds of weight gain in quarantine. Just think of that amount. Now, I'm now down to the holidays, okay? The New England Journal of Medicine did a study. They found that Americans gain, ready for this, about 0.4% weight on Christmas, and they gain about 0.2 at Thanksgiving time. In other words, we average about 1 pound per holiday. So as I was thinking about that, I looked, I'm like, well, that's not too bad, right? Like if we're just gaining 1 pound on Thanksgiving and 1 pound on Christmas, that's not too bad as I was flipping through. And then I came across the next stat that said the average American gains about 2 pounds a year. And then I realized, oh my gosh, there it is. It's the holidays. The average American gains 2 pounds every year, and it is right now. The time we're going through is when you guys are going to be gaining the weight. So literally, if you can make it through this time period, it is a huge period of just weight gain and health that you can change. Holiday, when we look at holiday, I looked it up. Holiday used to be holy day. For those of you that didn't know that, it used to be known as and there's an old English term there, which I was practiced to try to say it, but I couldn't say it, so you're not going to hear me say it. But they used to just say it was a day. If you look up the definition, holiday was a holy day, a day, a day. Read the definition. A day for people to remember, right? A day. What has happened to us? It's now a holiday season, right? Look at how long it is. As the season has grown, it's no longer a day. It's now from October 31st all the way to January 2nd. Look at the stats on this. Many consider November 1st to January 7th the holidays. That's 68 days of us living in a stressful environment with all kinds of sweets. You guys all know, right? You've been to the grocery store recently. You've seen it, right? All the candy packed up for the holidays and everything. 68 days total. If you consider the time we spend around this time, plus let's just throw in the other days. Your birthday, which, oh my gosh, you can eat whatever you want, right? 4th of July, we get that big food spread as well, right? All those, Labor Day, what the heck? We're all, what? Anniversary. You just, if you start adding up all of those other holidays, it adds up to almost 1/4 of our lives are in a holiday free-for-all of eating and stress. 1/4 of your life is spent in this time where you're kind of undisciplined and you can go, well, it is blah, whatever day you want to say, right? And there I can justify eating. So one of the things I want to press on you today is when you guys get done, the goal for all of us is how do we get through Thanksgiving and Christmas as clean as possible? And you're going to learn a lot about sugar as we go through this. Take a look at this. They call it the standard American diet, which I love because if you shorten it, guess what it spells out? SAD. SAD, which is really what the average American diet is. What most of us don't realize is in the 1940s and 1950s, the food industry got together and said, you know, we can make more money if we sell more food. If only we had something that was addictive, then we could put it in the food and they would actually eat more of it. Guess what they found? Sugar, right? When they figured out, oh, sugar's addictive, they started putting more and more and more into it. And they also said to sell more food, just like a good drug addict, what you can do is, if you listen to marketing, what they talk about, they go, we need to sell more food. But not everybody is eating our food. So it's hard for us to get new people. What is actually easier if you're into marketing is to take the people who are already addicted to your food and have them eat what? More.
Did you guys see Dope Sick? Has anybody seen that about the oxycodone epidemic? So they started off at 10, and they went up to like 160s because they already had people hooked on it. So why would we go out and market to somebody new? Let's just give our addicts more and more, and we just increase our sales like that.
So take a look at that. Look at what's happened. Look at the popcorn down here. Look at the tub has gotten bigger. Look at the size of the bagels, how they've grown. Look at the size of Coke. Do you know when they first came out, they were 8-ounce bottles? That's how Coca-Cola sold it. By the way, an addictive substance is called a hedonic substance. That's anything that you can become addicted to. And Coca-Cola, boy, Coca-Cola is a huge success, isn't it? You know what did Coke have in it when they first made it? What was in the recipe?
Cocaine.
Cocaine, right? So listen, they weren't dumb. When they made this, they didn't quite get it, but it doesn't have one hedonic substance. It doesn't have two, it has three. It has cocaine, has caffeine, and has sugar. Is there any wonder that Coke has become a massive product? And all they did was do anything what a good drug addict would do. They started out at 8-ounce bottles, and they said, we need to sell more. We'll just make the bottles bigger and bigger and bigger. This slide over here, I know you guys probably can't read it. That is the number of large-sized portions that were introduced at restaurants per year. That first one is from 1970 to 74. Okay, a few people made larger products. Look what happened in 75 to 79. About the same, a few more people added. Look at it ramp up all the way through the 90s to 2000. Products have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and just like any of us, we're very easily adapt, and we get used to that. We get used to that. Oh, that's the large. That used to never be the large, right? That used to be a barrel that we're drinking out of.
Hey, guess what, Dr. Sherry?
Yeah.
When you stand there, they can't see you at home.
I'm going to move over this way.
Yeah,
so
that's a good idea.
So on that sad diet, real quick, antidepressants have skyrocketed 400% in the past 20 years. More than 25 million Americans have diabetes now. It's running rampant in our society. 1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer during their lifetime. All of these stats just show us that our health is not doing better, but doing worse, and it's mainly the stuff we're eating. Food is what do we say? What you eat is what you become, right? By the way, I did a talk, not too long ago we did a talk here, and I was telling you guys about how that really hit me when I think about that. I freaked out one day, I'll tell you again. I freaked out one day because I realized, oh my gosh, I'm like an amoeba. Like, whatever I eat, it actually becomes me. And I don't know why that freaked me out. Like, I'm like some alien. Like, if you give me a head of lettuce and I eat it, it actually becomes me. If I eat a candy bar, it actually becomes me. Whatever you put in is what becomes you, and that'll change. The holidays is this great time, but look at this. It's actually not the gift of health, it's the gift of sickness, right? We really look at the holidays from a health standpoint. We don't do better, we do worse. We'll talk more as we go through.
All right, this is me. And so one of the things that, I don't know if you guys have been looking at charts over the last couple of years. You see this? Like, oh my gosh, now we're in this season. I'm not going to go off on, you know what I'm not going to go off on. But the point is that every year at this time of year, this is the highest death rate of the whole entire year happens, guess what day? Christmas Day. Did you know that?
No.
Why would that happen? Why would more people die on Christmas than any other day of the year? Stress, loneliness, bad food, right? Everything that you could possibly do to make yourself sick and take away life from your body happens on Christmas Day. You look right, and so what I want you to look at is this peak, and this is the same peak we've been seeing for the last 2 years. And they're like, oh my gosh, there are all these deaths, we're having all these deaths climbing. This is the coronavirus death cases in our valley here. It's the exact same trend that happens at this time. Because guess what? Healthy people stay healthy, sick people stay sick. Do you understand that? Like, remember we talked about our last class, it's the strength of the host, not the strength of the virus. So we literally destroy the host for 68 days, and we ask that there's not going to be any consequences. There are always consequences. Tonight is about truth and consequences. We're not going to pull any punches. We're just going to tell you the truth. And the only reason why we do is because we're not going to let you run into the street when the car's coming down on you. So this is basically what Dr. Sherry and I sat back and we're like, okay, what do we believe, right? What is our identity? And our one of the things that we really believe is that nutrition actually matters. Think about that. Like, nutrition actually matters as to what you put into your body. Like he said, what you eat is what you become. So if you're eating foods that don't have any life, guess what happens to you? You become a vessel that has no life.
Yep. And toxicity is one of those problems I think that most of us know about, but we don't know how to deal with it, right? Like, we don't know how to deal with the fact that they continue to spray stuff on our food. How do you handle that? I remember I was grocery shopping with my mother one time, and we went in, and it was when organics were really starting to come around, right? And so we went in, and she went right to those big red strawberries that are made with pesticides and things, right? And the organic ones were kind of ugly and not very good. And I tried to go over here, but has she grown up in that world where she didn't grow up where there was a lot of pesticides, right? Like her eye was just looked like, oh my gosh, how would you not want these strawberries, right? And my mindset was because those probably have a lot of chemicals on them that we don't want. And it happened gradually to most of us, and we're not even aware. We're still caught with like, my gosh, that is just an amazing looking watermelon. Like, that is so great. We aren't even aware how they just quietly had moved toxins in, right, to produce more and more food for us. So really got to be aware of toxins. They're kind of the sneaky part.
And I think the big thing is, like, we talk about mindset. Well, does it really matter, right? We have this thing that we try to rationalize and marginalize. Oh, it's just this one time that I do this. Oh, it's just, it's just a little bit of sugar here. Nobody's gonna really know, right? That I'm eating stuff that's like non-organic. Like, I'm not gonna tell anybody. I'll just pretend that I'm eating a lot of vegetables, right? Like, we rationalize and marginalize, and we become very mediocre in our choices there. And that's where your mindset comes in, because you have to set a standard for who you are and whose you are and what you're trying to achieve in this world there. And if we can do that, then what happens is there's nothing that can come against you that you can't stand up to and overcome there.
Yeah. Oxygen, by the way, is the exercise part. I think we all know. By the way, interestingly enough, by the way, when sugar industry got bigger and bigger and bigger, and they were really pushing sugar, they got attacked. It was like in the 60s and 70s, right? They came out and people started saying, hey, wait, maybe you guys are putting too much in, and people are gaining weight. The Americans are getting bigger and bigger, and into the 80s, and it was really, by the way, so what the sugar industry did, which was really smart, they did what a lot of people do when you point the finger at them, is they went, no, it's not us, it's them. And what they did is they went on a really aggressive marketing campaign to tell all of you that you don't exercise enough. Okay? And the federal government jumped on board and said, oh, you're right. They need to move more. And the reality is you can't move enough to burn the amount of calories that they're pushing on you. It's a no-win situation, right? So it's not, you have to exercise, but the minute you think, oh, I can just exercise my way out of this, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting, like we were talking about this earlier, that, think of the mortal sins, right? The only two left that people like blame somebody else for is sloth and greed, right? If you're overweight, you're just lazy or you're just a pig, right? That's really what it comes down to. Like every other one you can get away with these days, but it's your fault. But the other ones, it's somebody else's fault these days. Look, just know that you've been played. They've been playing you. They need you to be their consumers and to play into their game. Tonight is where we lay down the line. So I think tonight, the other thing, last one is about balanced nervous system. Look, and we'll talk about this in a second. There's one thing controls health, which is your nervous system. It's just a fact. All right? There's 4 things that are going to influence it. Those are the other essentials that we talk about there. But tonight's about getting 25% of your life back. So I thought about this for myself. If I was 40 years old right now, and I literally, if you take the average person that's supposed to live to 100, and they live a horrible life for 25% of their life, is it any wonder why the average person is living to 75 years old? When we know Scientific American says our life expectancy is supposed to be 150. Right? Like, and the Genesis says we're supposed to be 120, right? Like, either way, it's because of what happens when we're not, it's our blind spot, it's our vacation time. We live our life on vacation. So what tonight's about is getting back those holiday times, working on those 5 essentials. So the first thing that we got to figure out, and you guys should be able to tell me the answers to this, okay? So what is health? Is it how you're feeling or how you're functioning? Thank goodness. High five, Dr. Sherry.
High five. Oh, sorry. What a time to walk out.
Yeah. No, I was like, I do this all the time. I'm like, I give him a high five, and like he walks away just to keep me on my toes. So health is how we're functioning. But I guess think about this. Most people base their health on how they're feeling, right? You get sick today, you're like, oh, I just got sick. No, you had to be sick to be able to get sick, right? Somebody gets cancer, and all of a sudden now they start feeling bad. When did they start? Do you guys remember this? How long from the time that the first cell starts to mutate, right, does it take for cancer to become big enough for it to be able to be diagnosed?
8 years.
Yes. There you go, gold star. 8 to 9 years from the time that first cell starts happening. So you're number 1. How you doing? Fine. You're number 2. It's like jumping off the Empire State Building, and you're like, how are you doing? You're like, oh, the view is awesome up here. You should check it out. Okay? Health isn't how we feel. It's how we function. And that's why, look, we have the nervous system controls the function of your entire body. That's why we put primacy to that, because it's the only thing. Like, you can starve for 40 days, right? And you can still be alive. You can have most people have a thinking mindset their entire lives, yet they're still alive there. Some people have never gotten off the couch and exercised, yet they're still alive there. Some people, like, their personal care products are junk. They're taking all kinds of medications. They have all kinds, they've never eaten organic in their life. And thank God they're still alive. But there's not one person in this world that's alive right now that doesn't have a nervous system, right? And a nervous system that's working. That's how we know it's primus. It's primal. So that's why we take what we do so seriously about the nervous system. So the key is your body doesn't need any help. It just needs right? Yeah, there's a power that made your body. There's a power that heals your body. Your body doesn't need any help. It just needs no interference. And tonight we're going to be talking about 3 different types of interference: emotional, physical, chemical. Have you ever noticed when you come up to the table and you're like, oh, my back hurts? And I'm like, oh, really? What do you think's going on? And you're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, well, there can only be 3 causes: emotional stress, physical stress, chemical stress. Which is it? And you're like, oh, I got in a fight with my husband today. I'm like, that makes sense why you subluxated yourself, right? Have you ever heard me say that? Hey, what happened? Oh, I was like, my back hurts. I'm like, what happened? I was out working in the yard. And I'm like, that makes sense, right? But a lot of times we just think things happen to us. It's only going to be one of these 3 things. So the first thing, because the nervous system is primal, your nervous system controls the function of your body. It has armor protecting it. From the front, you guys should know this. It should be straight. It should have 3 nice smooth curves on there. Second thing is subluxation is a physical interference. It's an interference with that power in your body to be able to communicate, to heal, repair, to regenerate, to be able to adapt your body to its environment, to adapt to all the stresses that you experience on a daily basis. So that when we start looking at a physical interference, now what does that mean? Because a lot of times if I said the word subluxation to you, and you've never been here, you'd be like, what is that, right? So we always talk about in this office, if we tell you something, then we have to define it for you, and then we have to teach you what it means to you and how you can use it. So a subluxation creates an imbalance in your nervous system. And I want you, there's a really fancy word up there called dysautonomia, which means an imbalance in your autonomic nervous system. It's your autonomic nervous system is what keeps you alive. It increases or decreases your heart rate. It's what tells your digestive system to work or not work there. And as long as it's in balance, then you can express health. You're in homeostasis. When it's out of balance, that's when your body goes into a failure to be able to adapt to stresses of everyday life. And what happens is that we start this downward spiral in health. 95% of all healthcare problems are stress-related disorders. It's not your genes, right? It's whoever you blame it on. If you're blaming, it could have had stress in childhood. But don't blame it on your mom, right? You got to make up those decisions right now. Don't blame it on what they taught you to eat. Blame it on what you're doing right now. But there's no way when somebody's subluxated, they can't even perceive the world. They can't even adapt to the world in a balanced manner. So that's why somebody came in the other day and they told me they didn't want to do a scan. And I'm like, they're like, I just don't have time for a scan. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like literally, are you kidding me? So look at this scan, and I want you to see this. So this is the goal is up here on this left-hand side, okay? We want to be balanced. We want clear scans. Anytime we have color, it means that you have subluxation and it's creating an imbalance in your nervous system, which is reducing your body's ability to adapt to stress. That's why we do it all the time. That's why we scan you on a regular basis. That's how I judge my performance as whether your body's healing or not. And that's also how I judge your performance on how you're reducing those stresses in your life that are recreating your subluxation pattern. So watch this. This is our goals on the left. This is 2013. This is 2014. You see how that the less color, right? That's called healing. Your body's adapting. So think about this. Now your body's going to either be in a place of survival or it's going to be in a place of regeneration. It's going to be able to make sick cells or healthy cells. That's all it is. That's what I'm looking at when I'm looking at these scans. But I do want to show you a study that came up. When we do that thermography scan, they've actually done studies where 1, 2, 3, and 4, like if there's a 0.3 degree difference in just Celsius in temperature from one side of your spine to the other side of your spine, they were able to chart the people that wherever that nerve went to, 18% of those people had an active organic pathology. Think about that. By the time we got up to a degree, 1.2 degrees, they could correlate to a 98% correlation between where that nerve went to and if they had an organic pathology, if there's a problem in that organ. So that's why when I see red, I'm not like, oh, you have pretty colors. No, I'm like, right now you need to start doing your home care. Right now you need to start changing what you're doing because your body is suffering. It's not repairing and regenerating there. So watch this. when they went on to find that, look at this, when asymmetries exceed 1 degree, like remember that on the lines, you've heard me talk about there's 1 degree over, there's like that black line, so 1 step over there, they were actually able to like detect nerve root impingement. So before they had MRI, guess what they used to do? They used to use thermography to find out who had pressure on their nerves. That's what this does. I mean, what did they do before nerve roots? They just used the thermography. That's how they could do it. And there is a huge correlation, and that's why we do this, and that's why we do it on a regular basis there. And one of the beautiful things, what this means to you, is every single time they've done a study on how your body responds to the adjustment when we adjust you, every single time it shows that your body adapts to stress better. So when you come in on Monday, I'm glad I'm adjusting you on Monday because it means you're going to be adapting to stress better the whole week, right? When you come in on Friday, I'm happy to adjust you because I know we're cleaning up the mess that happened during that week there. You miss on Friday, guess what? You just got 2 weeks of stress on your body, and your body's having to adapt to it, and it's having to break down there. So this is what's interesting. They're like, why didn't my doctor ever talk to me about this? Well, first of all, your doctor never studied the nervous system, and he doesn't know, even if you were subluxated, he wouldn't even know what to do with it. But not only that, 1993 was the first time we actually found out that the nervous system actually controls your immune system. Think about that. That was I just graduated from chiropractic. We were just still in chiropractic college at that time, right? But we'd known it as a chiropractor for decades because people were getting well, and they were the flu epidemics, like people were like not dying when as opposed to people under medical care. But what they found was the first evidence that the nerve endings, watch this, they touch the white blood cells of your immune system, and they trigger the white blood cells to actually release, to change what type of blood cell needs to happen to get to what type of infection. How amazing is that? So next time like you're laying at home sick and you're like, I don't feel like coming in to get adjusted, just think about that, okay? All right, Dr.
Awesome,
Sherry.
thank you.
You're
so I'm going to tell
welcome.
you guys a quick story. I love history. And so over the last week or two, I've been watching this whole series about World War II and submarines. And you're thinking, where's he going? But watch. And I was kind of stunned that these guys would go that deep in the ocean and risk everything. And they show these guys being, explosions next to them and depth charges and stuff. And something dawned on me. They said subs are really at risk because they move really slow. And when they're in the battle zone, it literally only takes 1 bullet hole in a submarine to end it. Because if you put a hole in a submarine and it goes down to 150 feet, the water will just collapse the whole thing. And it really changed my view. And they showed kind of a movie part of it where these guys had been depth charged and the whole boat had been rocked. And they were running around literally with flashlights, checking every part of the submarine as best they could. And they said, because if that submarine entered 1 little crack in it and water was coming through, if they were to dive down to 100, 150 feet, the water pressure would just blow the whole submarine apart. And I thought, man, no wonder those guys were so worried about how that submarine functioned. And it made me think, like, if we were all on a spaceship going out into space, would the spaceship be important to us? Like, wouldn't we care knowing that if the spaceship dies, if it breaks apart, we're gone? Those guys at 150, 200 feet under the water, if something breaks on that submarine, it's over. One guy made a quote. He said, one thing about submariners, there are no wounded. When that submarine goes down, they all go down. And then I started realizing we're just inside of these submarines, our bodies. The submarine is our body. We're inside of it. And if we don't take care of it, just like those submariners, or if we're on a spaceship, when it goes down, we go down. There is no wounded. When you let your body get damaged, there is no new body. You're not jumping ship to a new submarine. Like, you have to take care of the one that God gave you. And so when we look at some of these things, I hope you guys take some notes because you're going to see some underlying things that are killing Americans. One of the coolest things about us is we've gotten to a point as humanity where we don't die from infections. Women aren't dying like crazy in childbirth. Like, we actually can live longer lives. And the benefit of that is we get to die from stress disorders now. We get to live longer enough that we die from stress disorders and from bad health choices. In other words, we now live long enough that the ship is rusting and falling apart because it hasn't been taken good care of. Emotional interference. The negative effects of sugar on the body, from obesity to tooth decay, are all well known. We all know that, right? We know that sugar makes you heavy. We know it eats away your teeth. But recent medical research is showing stronger links between sugar consumption and symptoms of depression and anxiety. We have a love-hate with sugar, guys. Here's why. Our bodies are carbohydrate machines. We love carbohydrates. It's our #1 source of energy. And thousands of years ago, we worked like crazy to find carbohydrates. We can eat, we need protein for building blocks, but we don't like it for energy. We like fat because we can store fat and it does a lot of functions, but carbohydrates really is where it's at. And sugar is nothing more than a simple carbohydrate. So we are driven to it, like crazy driven to it, to try to find it. That was thousands of years ago. The problem is now, it's everywhere. And they make it into short little packets and we get addicted to it, and that's a big problem. Stress is heightening during the holidays. Look at 38% of people are more stressed during the holidays. We talked about that. They did a survey, almost 88% of respondents believe that holidays are the most stressful time of the year. I don't think that's anything crazy. Moreover, many excesses feelings of stress start as early as November, 84%. So we know it's a big deal.
Did anybody feel it before November, by the way?
I do.
When you walked into, like in July, when you walked to the store and they had like Halloween stuff up?
Yeah. Yeah. They start pushing it earlier and earlier on us, right? Okay, #1 thing happens in stress, okay, is it changes your blood sugar. So we're going to have a quick talk about stress, okay? And we did a whole workshop on stress. I love doing it. I used to do it for the San Jose Fire Department. I used to go to their workstations to train these guys on stress. There's a lot we can talk about stress, but I'm going to go through it really quickly. When you think of stress, I want you to realize, remember why it's called the fight or flight, right? We have 2 nervous systems, the parasympathetic, which is the relax, reproduce, enjoy, digest food, and the stress is fight or flight. Now, the body only has those 2 systems. You're either in the happy, reproducing, digesting food mode, or you're in the fight or flight. And the body has to decide which one it uses more. Now, the way this thing is designed is this. If we're walking through the wilderness, and a tiger jumps out and tries to attack me, the nervous system doesn't go, is that a real tiger? I don't want to waste energy, but it might be a fake tiger. Maybe it's one of those puffy animal ones that someone won at the circus. The animals, we do not have that option. Your body will assume it's a living, killing tiger no matter what it is. I'm driving down the road. The light turns yellow, and I go, oh, the guy in front of me stopped. No, why would you do that? My body goes, is there a tiger? Right? It only has one choice. It either responds with stress or it responds with relaxation. Every event that you take place, your body responds as if it's a tiger because it doesn't have a choice. If it hesitates and it's a tiger, you're dead. So your body responds massively every time. That light turns, you get frustrated. I can't believe that guy's such a jerk. Okay, what happens is your blood sugar goes up. Why? Because fight or flight. Your body goes, oh my gosh, there's a tiger. Are we running from the tiger or are we fighting the tiger? It doesn't matter which one. Your body goes, I don't even care. You can decide later, but I need what? Blood sugar. Because the muscles are going to be involved. Whether you decide to run from the tiger or fight, muscles have to be involved. So boom, up goes blood sugar. How great is this system? The #1 threat to your life right then, when your body thinks it's being attacked by a tiger, it's not, by the way, it was just a stupid stoplight, right? Your body thinks, I'm being attacked by a tiger. I need more increased blood sugar now because I'm going to fight or I'm going to run. This is life or death. This is not a stoplight. This is a tiger going to eat me. It also goes to the cells in your body. It immediately stops the production of insulin. You know why? Insulin is a death threat to you at this point. Insulin is the only hormone in the human body that takes blood sugar and puts it into cells. It's the only one. It's a massive threat to your life when you're under stress. Because if a tiger comes along and insulin goes, okay, all the sugar, just go ahead, go into the cells, we're just going for storage, you're dead. Because as you're trying to run away, you're like, oh, I'm getting a little low on blood sugar, and then you're done. You're done. So the body will go stop at the beta cells in the pancreas. It stops production right now. You will not make insulin. It also does another thing. It goes to your cells and it actually plugs the door so that insulin can't put anymore. It stopped it. It also sucks, there's 3 things. It also sucks up all the insulin out of your blood. Why? Because this is a little thing for your body? No, this is a massive thing for your body. And does it take long? No, it has to happen within a split second. Because tigers have a nasty habit of sneaking up on us and jumping out of bushes. Remember, they have those stripes so we can't see them? And all of a sudden, boom, you're being attacked by a tiger. So your body instantly will increase blood sugar and instantly shut off insulin. What disease is that? Diabetes, right? There's your diabetes connection to stress right there. Muscles need to happen. Okay, stress management, I like you to think of it as peace management. The only defense you guys have against stress is getting within your own brain and telling it to chill out, right? In other words, I'm driving and the light goes yellow. I'm like, I think we can make it. And the guy stops. I go, okay, that's fine. So what? It's only about 30 seconds to a minute. I'm good, right? Or I know this one. I have a long commute. Driving down the freeway, that person who's weaving in and out of traffic, right? I can't believe that guy's such a jerk. Okay, I've learned over the years that I take a deep breath and go, maybe someone in his family is about to die, and he's trying to get to the hospital, right? Maybe he has a very, very sick child, and he's trying to get somewhere. I'll just move out of his way and let him go. Because I'm trying not to get that stress. I don't need that physiology change in my head. You have to take charge. This is how most people are dying from. Dr. Osborne just said it. Most of us are dying from stress disorders. If you can't manage stress, you're going to have the problem of a stress disorder, right? So start changing the mindset. Write that down. You have to change the mindset. Start evaluating events and thinking, is there any value in me changing my whole physiology right now? Like, is it to my benefit to get mad because they don't have the gravy I love at the restaurant? Like, is that really worth it? And the answer is, no, that's not worth it. It's not worth it. The consequence is too big. Peace management techniques. You guys got this as a handout because we decided we had not a lot of time, so we printed it out. I think you guys all have it, right? Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
good. You just go through that, simplify your schedule, have a breathing relaxation. You guys can do these. Exercises really big. Quickly on exercise, and I'll get to it in a second, actually. Meditation and prayer, great. Plenty of sleep. We're going to talk about that in a second. Shift your perspective. That's what I'm talking about. You have to think this is, and by the way, doesn't it sound easy? Oh, yeah, Dr. Sherry, that's so easy. I'll just write that down. Okay, I know it's not that easy. I know it's not that easy, but every time you can do it, you win. Every time you can do it, you win, right? Every time you can do it, you win. Focus on quality sleep. Let's talk about that. Sleep, this is a whole talk on its own. I want to share with you guys something that when I did the sleep talk, there's
Who
a
would
really...
like a sleep talk, by the way? Anybody? Okay.
Nobody. Oh, no one came to sleep talk?
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay. So there's a book called Why We Sleep by a PhD from Berkeley. He's phenomenal. Matthew Walker's his name. If you want to read a really good book about that, or just go to YouTube and look up Matthew Walker and listen to a couple of his lectures. Really sharp guy. I think he's English, but he does a lot of sleep studies. And what he talks about is, real quick, not a lot of time to go through this, but when we go to sleep, years ago, what we thought was, oh, when we go to sleep, that the whole brain gets shut down, right? We're like a business. They close the blinds. Everyone just goes and we rest. Okay, that's not how it happens. All we do is when we close the blinds, they go to work in your head like crazy. The worker bees have to start working like crazy in there because what's happened is all day you guys have been awake and data has been coming in. It's been coming through here, it's been coming through here, it's been coming through here, it's been coming through here. Tons of data. Your brain's been giving your brain information. It comes in so fast the brain doesn't know what to do with it, so it starts putting it in little piles over here to the side. When you go to sleep, the brain goes, okay, whew. Now I can deal with all this information. I have to store it. I have to sort it. I've got to clean out the warehouse where all the memories are. And you go into different phases, okay? You'll see up here, you see where it says REM? That's where your eyes are moving fast. What we've discovered is when you first go to sleep, you go into non-REM sleep. What that is all the workers go, okay, good, we're closed. They all go back to the warehouse and they start organizing things. And they start taking notes and how did everything go. And they get everything organized and they go, is it organized? They go, yeah, it's good enough. They'll come up. When you go into REM, rapid eye movement, the brain goes, okay, let's get the new stuff. Let's get the new stuff and put it back into the warehouse. And so we do this dance between cleaning out the warehouse, getting the new information, and storing it. The most important part of this is the REM part. When you're in REM, it's the most important part. They took animals, I hope you guys don't mind this study, they took animals and they would do studies with them and they kept them awake, rats. They kept rats awake. And they find out that a rat, if you don't let it sleep, it'll die in about 21 to 22 days. Sounds pretty horrible, doesn't it? So what they also did is they took rats and they just didn't let them have REM sleep. Whenever they would go into REM, whenever the eyes started moving, they'd wake them up. And guess what? They died in 20 days on average. They died quicker without REM. REM is the key. So when I say you need about 8 to 9 hours a night of sleep, that's the best way. And you go, well, I'm getting 6. I'm close gets it, right? Isn't that classic golf thing? Like, yeah, it was close. You're like, no, it's not. It's either in the hole or it's not in the hole, right? Like, it's not, there's no close enough in golf. It's either there or not, right? It turns out, look at this, the hours of sleep, look at where all the REM is, guys. It's at the end of the sleep. The last 2 hours are literally the most important hours of sleep in your brain. If you wake up 6, 4, 5 hours before that, right? If you only get that amount of hours, your brain is literally trying to store stuff and goes, oh, we're back open. And it comes up and starts collecting more data. And pretty soon there's data everywhere. There's not enough time. So that it creates a massive stress for the body because the brain can't cleanse and get ready. So sleep is really, really important. And the question has been asked all the time, I can't sleep 8. Great, do 5 and then take a nap. Sorry, you're going to have to. Like you have to let that brain cycle and clean. Otherwise, we know that people who don't sleep a lot, they die earlier, they have more chronic disease, they have more stress disorders, it's a slam dunk, they have more weight gain and everything, okay? Loss of sleep, increased weight. I know we're going to move quick through here. We know that people who don't sleep a lot increase weight. It's a stress issue. We also know that decreased sleep decreases growth hormone, for instance. There is nothing good that happens to the human being when it doesn't sleep enough. Literally, we are designed to have that time to do maintenance, clean up, and file memories. Okay, memories. I remember cramming in college thinking, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm just going to study all the way through the night. And when I learned this, I'm like, oh my gosh, was that the stupidest thing in the world? Like I sat there and went through all of that, and then I didn't sleep, so it never really got entered in to my brain probably. This is also talking about how important sleep is. If you don't sleep, your immune system goes down. It accelerates tumor growth. It causes diabetic situations. We know physical performance goes down. We know that. This is one of the things. My daughter's actually playing soccer in a national soccer tournament right now in Alabama. And she's like, Dad, they're making us, California, we're playing at 8 a.m. tomorrow. That's like 6 a.m. our time. I'm like, yeah, welcome to why a home field advantage works, right? You guys just flew in. Your time is off, you're not going to sleep very well, and you have to take the field tomorrow at 6 a.m. your time, right? Good luck. Exercise is super important. Quickly, what happens is this. When we move, you guys are all beautiful design motion machines. When you move, you stimulate nerves in your spine, which tell your brain to relax. Zebra's out walking on the tiger chases it, zebra gets away, right? What a zebra does is a zebra doesn't sit there and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe he picked me. Why did he pick me? Is it my stripes? Is there something wrong? Do I have an issue? Do I know that tiger from somewhere else? Is that like a friend of somebody that I'm supposed to know? Like, they don't do that. They start eating. They eat, which relaxes them, okay? But they walk. Walking is one of the best things for you guys. Walking. Because when you walk, you stimulate nerves in your spine, which calm your brain down. That's number one. The other thing is, you are all wired for this. When you walk, the nervous system does this. Things must be pretty damn good. We're walking. Nothing's trying to kill me. Things are good. Okay? So people do this. They go, so if motion is really good, is running better? And the answer is, interesting question, isn't it? Because you will stimulate the nerves more, but what happens in your brain a little bit is your brain goes, are we, just out of curiosity, are we being chased right now? Like, is there something after us? It's not exactly de-stressing to run because your brain thinks, you know, when we used to run, we were usually being chased. Is that what's happening? So walking. How many lives do you think dogs have saved in humanity? A lot, right? You all see it. The neighbor's out walking their dog every night, right? And that joke, the dog's like, oh God, here we go again. I got to take him for another walk, right? Because that dog is there to save your life by getting you up and walking to stimulate that pathway to calm us down and defend you from stress. Exercise has to be a part. There's no way. You're the most amazing motion device ever made. You're designed to move. Everything is good when you move. When you sit around, you don't do very well. Exercise and medication, real quick. Take a look. This has to do with stress, with depression and anxiety. Look at the one on the left. People doing just exercise. Look at the recovery rate. Look at the one with medication down here in the combination. People exercising did so much better. So motion, motion, motion changes your attitude by getting rid of stress. Okay, this is a whole talk on its own, but just if you get nothing more out of tonight, but like, I'm going to decrease my sugar and I'm going to start walking, it's a huge step in the right direction.
Well, and I think one of the things that's really fascinating, I'm going to go back to this. You notice when you're exercising and you're taking medication, your results are actually worse than if you were just exercising without the medication. Think about that. Because what's medication is an interference maybe, right? It has to block a pathway there. So a couple things that I wanted to just hit on. Dr. Sherry said something, but I wanted you to make sure you pick this up. We used to die of problems. Now we're dying of solutions, right? We used to have problems like problems with our water, problems with we used to not have enough food, right? So people would starve. Now we have so much food that actually people die of the food, like having too much food there. So what you have to think about is we used to die of problems. Now we're dying of the solutions. We used to not have medical care, right? And now we have too much medical care where people are, we used to, like, what was it yesterday? Do you guys know what the magic number happened yesterday? They said that 100,000 people last year died of oxycodone. I mean, these opioids. Think about that. And where's the outrage, right? Where's the fear? Where's the epidemic? But that's a medical problem. We created it, so we don't have to worry about that. It's a solution for something else. Number two, he said something about stress and how we react to it. Stephen Covey said there's a space between stimulus and response. And it's in that space that you choose your freedom. So it's what happens to you as opposed to how you react to what happens to you. And so when there is no space, you're just reactive. Like you walk in, you're all stressed out, your wife's like, where have you been? You're like, where have you been? You know what I mean? Like the whole point of it is there's no space. And that's one of the beautiful things about getting adjusted. It's all about increasing the space so that you can actually have space to react respond rather than react to that. And then I think the last thing is, getting more or less sleep. I think one of the things about sleep is, do you think we're getting more or less sleep since the advent of, the internet? Like, Netflix, right? Like, we justify it. Like, what would you do if you had a power outage in your house? What time would you go to bed? That's the standard that you need to have. Like, literally, you're no better off as a human being just because you finished, season 7 of Breaking Bad, right? You just robbed your life. It's worse than that. So one of the things that people always ask me, what do I do? So we try to change our life, but sometimes it's the environment that we're in, right, is so toxic. We can't get away from the biggest stressor could be in our bed next to us, right? Or our kids or whatever's going on there. Sometimes we're in a season of stress. Or sometimes we didn't realize that we were all stressed out until we finally get to where we are right now. We're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to wake up. And so there are a couple things that I always recommend. Number one is like sleep and mood. Like if we can do one thing to help us to recover and regenerate, it's actually get good sleep. And so one of the nice things about the sleep and mood formula, literally it's all about producing serotonin. So when you help your body produce serotonin, when you wake up the next morning, serotonin's our happy hormone, right? So when somebody takes an antidepressant, it's about raising serotonin. This is allowing your body to produce its own serotonin, which helps you with a balanced emotional state so you have more space. But it also helps you sleep better at night. And it's not interfering with that REM sleep there. It's actually just like giving your body the nutrients that it needs, because if you're deficient in something or you're toxic in something, you're not going to be able to perform an activity. And that's many times because of the amount of stress that we have, it depletes our sleep. Number two is adrenal revive. We used to just give adrenal energy because that would help you help people get back on track and to have them have the energy that they needed to get through the day and their body would recover it. But we had to actually develop adrenal revive because what I'm finding is people are in adrenal exhaustion. Their adrenal glands are exhausted. They can't hold their adjustments. That's one of the signs. Like if you're not holding your adjustment, it lets you know that your adrenal glands are exhausted. So it also it helps to reduce cortisol, which helps us to lose weight. And helps us to balance our blood sugar. So as far as supplementation, and maybe even this is just like during this time of year, being able to if we have a lot going on right now and you want to get ahead of it, using the adrenal sleep and mood and adrenal revive is important. You can also add in adrenal energy there. In this right here, we also talked about, and I hope you guys read this because we put a lot of time and effort into actually having it made and putting all this together. But it talks about the blood sugar. It also talks about what you can do if you're a diabetic right now, right? What you can do to be able to get off the medications there, okay? And I'm not telling you because you can't get off diabetes medications unless you make changes in your lifestyle. But sometimes I have a patient go, well, they got off their diabetes medication and the doctor called me and they're like, what did you do? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I've never taken a patient off of diabetes medication. I said, well, that's because you didn't tell them to change anything, right? It was all about blood sugar, not lifestyle. So we're going to go into that. but I do want you to understand sugar is a silent killer. I can beat this to death, but we can go over weight gain, heart disease, fatty liver. In all the last classes, it literally causes skin to age prematurely. So if you want to like worry about wrinkles, it's not what you put on the inside. Like literally, it creates AGEs, which are advanced glycosylation end products, which causes you to age at an accelerated rate. Kids with acne, I guarantee you, like you have them cut out the sugar, their acne goes away. Okay. So, but sugar is a silent killer because it tastes so good, and it doesn't. Like if literally, like I always talk about with Dr. Sherry, we were joking the other day. If you smoke a cigarette, okay, and then all of a sudden you die for 15 minutes, and somebody's like, hey, you're late for work. You're like, oh, I'm sorry, I smoked a cigarette and I died for 15 minutes. Like, nobody would ever have a second cigarette that they smoke, right? Like literally, they're planning your funeral for 15 minutes. That's how much a cigarette takes off of somebody's life every time they smoke a cigarette. But the same thing happens with sugar. It literally, every time you eat it, it takes the life away from you. And it's an anti-nutrient. So a couple things I just want you to see up here. Number one, we're like, I'm trying to be healthy. If you look at your Odwalas, like those Odwalas or those fruit drinks, they're going to have like 50 grams of sugar. Think about that. So just the easy conversion. So there's 5 grams of sugar for every teaspoon. So that's literally 10 teaspoons of sugar in one Odwalla. That on average, we should only have about 30 grams of sugar for our entire day. Think about that. 30. So like if you look, so when we start looking at, you just have one real quick cupcake, you've already gone over and put yourself in the diabetic place. And it's no wonder why we have over 75 million people in the United States that are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. So in a moment, I'm going to teach you how to be a label reader. But what I want you to understand how important this is at this time of our lives there. Right now, with like sugar, actually, it's an anti-nutrient. It literally takes away nutrition from your body there. It literally depresses your immune system. Look at this. When somebody eats about 8 teaspoons of sugar, for the next 8 hours, it suppresses your immune system by 40%. So you're like, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to have an Odwalla. And then all of a sudden, I drink that Odwalla, right? And maybe have like a couple pieces of bread. And now my immune system is suppressed by 40% for the next 8 hours. And it's wondering why at this time of year they call it the cold and flu season, because everybody gets sick because they've been suppressing their immune system because somebody loved them enough to give them a box of C's candy. And once that thing opens up, like you walk by and you're like, oh, I'm going to. By the time you get to it, you're even eating the strawberry cherry gross one, right? With like black, like the dark chocolate one that nobody wants to eat at first there. But your immune system, like literally, like I think the one thing I want you to understand is it's sugar suppresses our immune system though. Now, this is what Dr. Sheridan and I really wanted to get it back across to you. And when he was talking about the food industry, literally what happens is the same areas of your brain that light up from cocaine are the same areas of your brain that light up when you're exposed to sugar. Okay? So just when somebody says, I can do everything really good, but I can't give up the sugar, it's just like smoking a cigarette. It's just like any addictive product. And you have to understand that it was a gateway. They gave you a gateway drug when you were younger, and they got you hooked, and that's what they need to have you there. Now, the problem is that it triggers all the same thing that the opioid receptors in your brain, like the oxycodone, it triggers those same receptors in your brain there, and you basically make your own morphine. Think about that. You literally make your own morphine or your own heroin basically in your body. So that's how hard it is to break through there. And I think one of the things that it's, know that this was there for survival. We're going to make sure you guys get a chance to have all of these slides and all this resources there. But I do think that you just have to remember that this is an anti-nutrient. This is an and it's an addictive product there, and it suppresses our immune system. And there is nothing positive that can come from sugar. And I need you to understand this before we go into this next section here.
All right. So one thing I want to share with you guys is as I went through my professional career and I started going to more and more seminars and continuing ed, I would always sit like you guys are, and I would try to write down everything, right? I mean, I wanted everything. And I learned over the years that at the seminar, I actually wasn't doing the learning. I was getting the homework, right? So what I want you to do when we leave, I want to make sure that you all have written down at least one thing that you're going to do. You're either going to read one of the books I'm about to show you, or you're going to start walking. There has to be an action step. Otherwise, this is just entertainment. And entertainment never changes anyone's life. So I want you to make sure that you make an action step, and don't try to do everything. You know, if you think, oh my God, that's it, I'm changing my entire life, your brain literally is going to go, yeah, right. Remember last time we were going to change our whole life? That lasted for how long, right? Like, that's not going to happen. So let's be honest. The goal is to do 1 or 2 things tonight. Your job is to go home and do your homework. I was a competitive swimmer my whole life. I swam in college at Division I. The work wasn't done at the swim meet. The work was done every night in the pool for 2 or 3 hours. Like, that's where we got better, in the pool. And your work is going to start not here. Your work is going to start at home when you take this information home and decide, okay, what did I get out of tonight? What hit closest to me? And what can I start doing and creating a habit? Whether that's getting a puppy to walk, whether that's to go walk the neighbor's dog, whether that's to change your diet and start looking at labels, one of those things. Take a look up here. I'm just going to reiterate what he said. You know, the study was done on rats. They've done it multiple times. You take a rat, you get it addicted to cocaine. By the way, that's totally easy to do. You get them eating cocaine, and they'll push the button over and over for their cocaine reward. They'll even trade food items for the cocaine. Right? You'll give them food, and they know, if I take the food and put it in the box, I'll get cocaine. They'll do that. You can do that to a rat, get them fully addicted, and then give them an option between sugar water and cocaine, and they'll almost always end up migrating to sugar. Almost always. They'll trade the cocaine habit for sugar habit, just so you know what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with sugar. So you were all sold like I was. Oh, sugar, it's so great, right? It's so, put it on everything, right? They knew this when they marketed. I would love for you, one of the best books you can read on this topic. It can get a little heavy, and if it does, just dump it. It's called The Hacking of the American Mind. The Hacking of the American Mind. He goes in depth as to how they knew what they were doing. They knew they were selling you happiness, but they're getting you addicted to pleasure. Anything that creates pleasure releases dopamine in your brain, and it's addictive, hedonic. That's sex, that's gambling, that's drugs, that's sugar, that's all that stuff. It is a pleasure thing. Smoking cigarettes triggers dopamine. It's pleasurable. That is not happiness. Happiness is sitting in the crowd watching your kid graduate. Happiness is watching your daughter kick her first soccer goal when she's 6 years old. You don't get addicted to those things. Happiness is going to dinner with your friends that you haven't seen in a long time. That's happiness. It's serotonin. It's a different chemical pathway. They didn't sell you items that give you happiness, because happiness isn't addictive, believe it or not. Pleasure is. How did they do it? How about this? Ever see the guy riding the horse with the woman on the beach, laughing at each other, having a great time? That's happiness. What were they actually selling? Cigarettes. Cigarettes were their pleasure. It's an addictive thing. But you look and go, oh my gosh, how I wouldn't want to ride a horse on the beach. Oh my gosh, that looks so great. I just have to have a cigarette to get it. No. By the way, oh my gosh, McDonald's do they have pleasure meals or happy meals? Oh, you guys thought I was kidding. You don't think they did that on purpose? Every one of those companies, in case you don't know, has a marketing company who sits in meetings all the time and tries to figure out how to sell you guys more of their food. All the time. I had a spinal decompression unit before I moved my practice into Campbell, and I bought advertisement from the San Jose Mercury News. And the salesman came out to us, and here's what he said. He said, if you buy this plan right here, you can run an ad 3 times a week. I go, great. He goes, but if you buy this plan, we'll run it 5 days a week, and we'll write an article about you every 6 months. I said, I'm sorry, what? He goes, we will have our writers write an article about back pain. You will be featured as the expert in the article. You guys get it? It's not an ad. It's an article. They were offering me an article to be written about a health issue, and I would conveniently be put in as that's another marketing angle that put my name in front of people as the expert, but I was paying for it. So don't kid yourself. They know what they're doing, marketing to you aggressively, and they're marketing a substance that you get very addicted to. Robert Lustig also wrote a book called Fat Chance, The Hidden Truth About Sugar. It's a great book to read. You can get through there. Take a look at all the hidden sugars on these products. Look at peanut butter has extra sugar. Teriyaki sauce has sugar. Go just look at the label. He's going to show you how to read labels in a minute. Just flip the label over. Just flip it over. They're putting sugar in everything. They're not stupid. They know. Listen, if you sell a good teriyaki sauce and you sell a good teriyaki sauce, but you don't have sugar in it, my teriyaki sauce isn't as good, but I put sugar in it, I'm going to own both of you pretty soon, right? if you guys made really good barbecue sauce and I put cocaine in mine, I'm going to own the market. Everyone's going to eat my barbecue sauce, right? Because it's addictive. Secret sugars are hidden everywhere. I don't have time to go through all the names. Just so you know, when you learn to look at labels, sugar is hidden. Take a picture of that if you like. It is hidden all over the place. This is why labeling laws in Congress are fought over. The food and drug industry constantly fights this stuff because Congress is like, hey, we want these to be truthful. And the food industry says, yeah, we're being truthful. And they're like, not so much. Like, yeah. And they fight politically over what the laws are as to what they can tell you and not tell you. Natural versus artificial sugar. I want you to notice something. Pepsi and Coke had a moment in their lives where they had real sugar in there, real sugar in their products. The problem was, in a Coke, you had to put as much sugar on that side. You see that big ball of sugar? Okay, that's how much they had to put in. And then chemists at labs that aren't labeled, they're like the food tasty ones, right? They're hidden. Oh, thanks. They don't tell you this, but they did research. And we made a molecule that stimulates their sweet centers in their mouths, and there's no calories. And they're like, really? So we can market as no calories? They said 100%. And they said, and it's sweet. And they go, are you kidding? It's hundreds of times sweeter than sugar, and you only have to put. I don't have to. You only have to have a little bit of it. So if you're making a product and you had to buy that much sugar, and then I bring you and say all you have to have is a couple drops, you save a lot of money, and you get to market less calories, which everyone was being pushed. It was calories, right? And they just put it all in there. And it doesn't go with our body. It's a molecule your body. Listen, when sugar goes in your body goes, oh man, I love carbohydrates and I love that carbohydrate. I know what to do with it. I run it through that process. It works great. Fabulous. It gets the artificial sweetener. It goes, man, that was sweet. And then it goes, what was that? Like, what was that? It has sulfite in it. It has different chemicals in it, different molecules that your body goes, it was good, but I don't really know. Listen, you're at a big party and you know everybody. It's great. Uncle Bob comes in dressed as a clown. You're like, Bob, he's great, right? And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a clown comes in you've never seen before. He is hilarious, but you look and go, I don't know exactly who that guy is. I don't know what he's doing here. And then he hangs out, and he's drinking, and he's causing problems, and everyone's like, I don't know. He's funny. He's made us all laugh. But who is he, and what is he doing here? And here's the big question. How do we get him out? Like, he's a stranger. He's fun, don't get me wrong. It was sweet, but your body goes, I don't know what to do with this. That's the problem with artificial sweeteners. And look at this. Saccharin is 300 to 500 times sweeter than sugar. Aspartame, 200 times sweeter than sugar. They knew what they were doing, and we're falling foot, hook, line, and sinker, guys. The answer, are you ready for this? Because I think there's always an answer. Whole foods are the answer. I think if God was looking down, he's scratching his head, he's like, I gave you guys the food. Like, I made the food for you. You were developed to eat this food. Don't process it. You eat the carrots. You eat the broccoli. You eat the cauliflower. You make big stir fries with the vegetables and the fruits that were here that our whole animal life is based on. It is there. It has all the nutrients, all the minerals, all the things you need are in those products. Why do you think Whole Foods is called Whole Foods? Because they know that that's the answer to health. That's why they named their company Whole Foods. The other problem is, be careful, not so much fat. You put way too many oils in our stuff, okay? Those oils, those fats go in and plug up your cells, and they can't bring insulin, can't work anymore, okay? So we want to avoid those. But the whole food is the answer. Tons of colors. Broccoli, cauliflower, just all of those things are great. People go, should I have an apple? Yeah. Should I eat the grapes? Yeah. Those are all good. Eat those things, right? Sugar fuels inflammation. This is Dr. Osborne, back on.
All right, I actually made one of my cool little diagrams for you guys. Did you get it? Yeah. All right, so this is what my head thinks about. So, because here's the thing, you're like, why? Who cares about inflammation? What is inflammation? Because it was sugar, stress, and inflammation. So one of the things that's interesting is that sugar creates inflammation. Can we all be in agreement with that? In fact, it actually creates 50 times more inflammation than fat does. When Dr. Sherry was talking about the oils and the fats, it's the wrong type of fats, the highly processed fats, anything that says hydrolyzed on there. Those are the fats that will that create the problems there. but then the stress will increase inflammation. But I need you to understand how what inflammation does to your body. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to work through this. So sugar comes in, right, and it's converted in your intestines, right? It's converted into glucose, which is what your body uses, and then it's absorbed in the bloodstream. It floats around, and it's looking for cells that actually need energy. Okay. So then what ends up happening is it goes to when that glucose goes up, your body releases something called insulin. Have you guys heard of insulin? Right? So then the insulin comes in and it knocks at the door on your cell, and your cell actually goes inside of the cell. It pulls this thing up called a GLUT4 transporter, okay? And that transporter is what transports the sugar from the outside of your cell back into your cell so that it can actually use it for energy. So it's not insulin doesn't bring it into the cell. Insulin is just knocking at the door, okay? Now, what ends up happening is that when somebody has inflammation, okay? So inflammation, when you'll see an article that I found that just recently came out that talked about when somebody starts getting adjusted, their inflammation levels go down. Why? Because everything starts working better, right? But they found that when people are under stress, their inflammation levels go up. When you have toxins, like the environmental toxins, our personal care products, we did a whole detox makeover, and in your Align Your Health book, there's pages and pages of toxins. Go on to the environmental working group. They're going to talk about toxins. But toxins, every single toxin, because it was not designed to be in your body, it's considered, your body actually sees it as a threat. It's just as bad as a splinter. So when you get a splinter under your finger, because it doesn't belong in your body, it creates inflammation. So anything that was never designed to be in your body will by default create inflammation there. It's either a nutrient or it's a toxin. If it's a toxin, it's going to create inflammation. Poor food and drink, right? The problem is that we don't get away from poor food and drink. Most of the time we have poor food and drink today. Poor food and drink is a source of chronic inflammation, stress, and actually lack of motion creates acidity within our body, which creates inflammation. So when we have inflammation, what it does is it releases this hormone called tissue necrosis factor, and that prevents that molecule, that transporter, the thing that takes the sugar into your cell, it destroys it. It literally destroys it. So now your body's having to make more and more insulin to try to actually get the sugar into your cells. Did you know that if you have more than 1 teaspoon of sugar in your body at any given time floating around your bloodstream, it'll be lethal to your brain. You'll go into a coma and you could die. That's how important this is. And that's why your body will do anything that it possibly can. So when that tissue necrosis factor comes in and it goes to the cell surface, now it can't go into the cell. And what your body is so smart, because it's designed to survive, it immediately takes that floating sugar that can't get into the cell and converts it into fat. Converts it into fat. That's why you'll start to see that people get more and more overweight. The reason being is that because their body is converting all that extra sugar into fat. That is a huge problem, because guess what fat creates? More of that tissue necrosis factor, which then creates more of the resistance at the cells there. So we got to stop it. We got to stop that process. By the way, your body uses another thing called chromium. So chromium plus actually works together with that GLUT molecule to get the sugar in there. But guess what happens with our lifestyle that we have? When we have a lot of these poor high carbohydrate diets, it destroys chromium in our body. When we have high inflammation, it destroys chromium there. When we are using all of our vitamin C to get rid of the oxidation and the breakdown and all that stress on there, it destroys chromium. So now we need chromium and this GLUT, but that GLUT transporter gets destroyed because of our diet and the inflammation that we have there. And so that's why when that doctor called me and he said, "How did you get your person to stop being a diabetic?" Guess what I said? Well, first of all, what I'm going to do is I started adjusting them. And then I taught them the advanced plan. I told them how to reduce the carbohydrates to less than 30 grams a day, and I taught them how to eat in a way that God intended them to. Then I taught them how to remove the toxins from their personal care products and their home care products, and to not stop taking your medications that are creating a toxin and inflammation within your body. And I taught them how to exercise in a way that's genetically congruent for their body. And then what I guess else we do is we started working on their mindset and teaching them how to avoid stress so they stop recreating the problems that came in the first place, right? We taught him how to address the actual real problem rather than his solution, which was causing more problems. And guess what happens? What is the solution with somebody with diabetes? Give them more insulin. right? You have more insulin. Insulin is a stress hormone, and guess what it does? It creates more stress in the body, and when we have more stress in the body, we create more inflammation. That's why nobody really stops being a diabetic, because they keep on doing the same thing that's creating more problems there. And so, by the way, guess what happens when you're not getting energy into the cells? Do you have energy? And so what do most diabetics do? They're constantly eating, right? They're constantly eating. They're like, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. It's because their cells are starving, because they're toxic and they're inflamed there. So the goal is for us to be able to get rid of that inflammation. And sometimes people are like, well, I'm not toxic. I don't do anything. Did anybody live in San Jose here? So this just came out on our water supply. This is 15 contaminants exceed the health guidelines. Every single day in here. 276 times normal levels there. How crazy is that just in the water that we drink here? And we're like, oh, it's just that one time, right? Just that one time. Maybe I don't really have a filter there, but think about what happens. I do have a filter, but that water goes onto your skin. Just by being alive in this valley drinking water, you're toxic, and that creates inflammation there. And then what happens as we leave the house? Now we're sitting in the car, right? Gasoline, exhaust creates inflammation in our body. We go to work, and there's that extra donut, right? Or we're late to work, and so we stop off at Starbucks to get coffee, but that's not even organic coffee, so it's filled with pesticides in there. And then we're eating like a little egg bite where it's not even a grass-fed egg, right? It's just, we don't even know if it's really egg, right? Does anybody ever figured out if it's really egg in there, or does it just kind of look like egg? My point is, we're toxic in where we live. So that's why there's in the bundle in there, it talks about chromium. But if you do have blood sugar issues, right, this is a quick thing that you can do is start taking chromium. And like if you need to get like recommendations, talk to me afterwards about how much. But this is a very simple thing that you can do. Number 2, you can start taking vitamin C. We'll talk about that, because that will help out there, taking your vitamin D. Those are some of the very simple things that you can do if you're having blood sugar issues there. Omega-3s, guess what? I don't know, this is an old school picture right here, okay? This is like 4 labels ago. But what I want you to think about is omega-3s. Dr. Sherry talked about bad fats. You cannot get away with not taking omega-3s. It is one of those everybody, every day. It's like if everybody's not taking omega-3s in here, like I will be astounded and I will be deeply saddened, because I talk about it every single day. The average person should take about 1 to 2 grams. If ideally for somebody my size, it's between 3 and 4 grams. We do testing that allows us to see what it is, but for the most part, if you eat any processed food, your omega-3 ratios are going to be out of balance. 1 to 1 is ideal. Most people are in 1 to 15 in the United States. Anything over 1 to 17, and depression occurs there. Think about that. I love this. This is tilapia. Does anybody ever, please, tilapia? Oh yeah, tilapia. It's the sickest, grossest fish on the planet. It's the only fish that eats its own feces, by the way. It loves to eat. There's almost all the fish is farm fish, and it has they feed it grain, and it is incredibly inflamed. That's why they have to put antibiotics into the water just to keep that fish alive. They literally, because they put so much like grain in there, the fish eat the grain, it suppresses their immune system, and they have chronically high levels of omega-6 in there. So just know that if you could make a small little switch, let's switch our fish. Switch the fish. I got a T-shirt that says that. Oh, I'm going backwards, am I not? What's going on here? What? Well, sorry, I didn't know that did that. Okay, we're done. No, just kidding. So yes.
Are you saying that fish is good or bad?
Bad. Bad. B-A-D.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, it's bad. Not even a question. It is bad. Okay. Read the labels. So here's a quick thing on reading labels. I always read labels everywhere I go. Everything. Like my wife, she hates me going shopping with her, because I'm literally like she'll go shopping, right? And if you do it a ton of times, you just kind of like get a little bit numb to it. And I'm walking behind looking at this, and she's putting it in, I'm putting it out, she's putting it in, I'm pulling it out. And the reason being is I'm looking at what it is for serving size. So first of all, you look at the amount of carbohydrates in there. That's a quick and easy way to look at it. Okay. Remember, if it says, like, let's say, how much is this one? This one has, I can't see it on there. Calories per gram, carbohydrates. It has 4 grams of carbohydrates, but this one is filled with raspberry preserves. Remember, the first 4 things that are in the label are the highest concentration. So it has raspberry preserves, high fructose corn syrup, right? Fructose corn syrup is like a highly concentrated form of syrup. So look for anything with an OS on there in the label, but you take the grams of carbohydrate minus the fiber, and that'll give you the amount of carbohydrates that are in there that will convert into sugar. That's a quick and easy way. Try to keep your number of grams of carbohydrate to less than 30 for a day. Hey, let's just start off at 100, okay? Okay, let's just try to start off at 100 for me, and then work your way down there. Because what you'll start to find is the closer you get down to that 30, the better that you'll start to feel. If you do have blood sugar issues, you might get cranky, you might get headaches. You might feel like you want to choke somebody, because remember, you're an addict that's detoxing, okay? You just have to think about that you'll feel that detox there. Vitamin D, look, everybody has to take vitamin D, but one of the things that I want you to understand is that not only does it helps fight the depression, but it also helps fight the damaging effects of, it's an anti-inflammatory, the effects of SAD. That's why when we look at what I call our daily essentials, we have vitamin C in there, we have vitamin D, we have the B complex, which is absolutely necessary for you to be able to create energy within your body. But because of stress, our bodies destroy the vitamin Bs there. We also, where was this? And then vitamin C. This is a huge one. Vitamin C is like one of those magnificent things that but what happens is a lot of times, if you guys ever had those little packets where you get the emergency, have you ever known how much sugar's in there? You notice it tastes really good. Because what happens is that when you have sugar, it binds to the same receptor as vitamin C would. So you can't get, when you have high levels of sugar, you can't get your vitamin C. So even if you're taking supplementing and you're eating high sugar, you're wasting your time and your money because your vitamin C is not going to be able to work there. But what they found is that when our ability to create white blood cells goes down 50% when we're eating vitamin C, our sugar there. So vitamin C is massively important. It's an antioxidant. It's an anti-inflammatory. So if we're trying to get healthy, we want to make sure that we have it. I put together, instead of going through this whole this whole advanced plan, it's a cheat sheet. This is your cheat sheet for the advanced plan, okay? And so when Dr. Sherry was talking about working certain things, just start with this, okay? We can avoid this and we can replace it with this, right? And so these are some, like, we can start making little check boxes on these things. This talks about foods to avoid. We were talking about like the NutraSweet. By the way, there's parallels in things. So for example, the NutraSweet was actually denied being released many times by the FDA. Did you guys know that? 7 times. Until the 8th time, or no, I'm sorry, 6 times until the 7th time when it was unanimously approved by the director of the FDA, who, by the way, ended up becoming the director of research at the company that creates NutraSweet there. Think about that. It's a neurotoxin. It creates tumors in rats. But guess what's interesting? He was the one that gave it the label of low calories so it was safe. Guess what happened? The head of the FDA that ended up going to work for the Sacklers, he actually created the label that said opioids, that OxyContin was non-addictive. That's why everybody should prescribe it, right? And then he left for his $370,000 a year job and like his stock options there. So the point is that it's not about you, right? They're not about there to protect you. You are responsible for your health. And this, you have to look at your advanced plan. This is the way to live. This is the pathway. This is the plan. This is the direction. You have to put your time and energy into reading your book. If you want to have a quick start, we have what we call step 1, which is really, it's about doing a hard metabolic reset. If you want to do that, just ask one of our team members there. As far as what quick things can you do, just start your day off with good protein, right? So if you have cravings, right, start your day off with good protein, but you don't need to fill it in with tons of like fruit in your smoothie. Because a lot of times people are like, well, I put a banana in there, well, that's 35 grams of carbohydrates, and then I put a whole bunch of grapes in there, and that's a whole bunch more carbohydrates. And it's about a balance between sugar and nutrients. So we want to have nutrients, but you have to know that you need to, I would rather you have kale in your smoothie than have a whole bunch of fruit in there. Fruits are like just a seasonal type thing. And when we talk about fiber, fiber actually binds up sugar, okay? So this will help your body actually bind up the sugars that you have. So if you have fiber and you have your like your protein, that's a great way to start your day. It gives you some nice bulk. It binds up the sugar. And maybe even if you're going out to dinner, one of the things that I find during this time is what I used to do is I would save up all day. I'm like, I'm going to a holiday party. I'm not going to eat from the moment I wake up until we get to the party. And guess what happens? Now it's just like I'm grazing all night. I would suggest before you go to a holiday party, A, eat before you go. Number 2 is drink a lot of water before you go, because the more hydrated you are, the less that you're going to eat there. And this is one of the last things that's, I think, is that if I could get one thing across to you guys, daily essentials, quickest, simplest, easy thing. A lot of times it's just, I put the packet in my pocket and I just take it. It has everything that you need to get a good foundation. I think when we start looking at health, there's 2 things. The only cause of there's only one problem, and that's a sick cell. There's only 2 causes of sick cells: toxicity and deficiency. We have to make you sufficient so your cells can work right and remove the toxins there. My feeling is that everybody should be taking like an essential on a daily basis, and you have to really watch out. We did a whole class a little while ago on like toxic supplements. Like there's literally toxic supplements out there that I'd rather have you just not even take that multi than take something, and that's why we have the stuff that we do is pharmaceutical grade. This is one of the last ones that I want to show you there, and this is they actually gave people a few adjustments, and then they actually measured their their inflammatory level of their body. They didn't do anything. They actually didn't exercise. They didn't eat right. They didn't have a positive mindset. They didn't even know if they were the placebo or the not placebo, but they gave them a couple of adjustments, and then they checked their blood levels of inflammation, and they actually found that their inflammatory markers went down there. So when we start thinking about its blood sugar, it's everything. And so when people ask me what essentials should I do, all of them, right? The degree to which you implement the essentials into your life is the degree at which you're able to claim back that other 25% of your life that we willingly give up on a regular basis there. And this is, I think, one of the things that people ask us all the time, like, why we don't do insurance. Okay, this is what our healthcare system is based on the Medicare guidelines. And this is what Medicare says about treatment. It says any care, listen to this, any care that seeks to prevent disease, any care that seeks to promote health, and any care that is designed to prolong and enhance the quality of life is not considered what? That's right out of the Medicare guidelines. It's not medically necessary because that's not their job, right? Their job is not to prevent disease. Otherwise, do you think they would be talking about something other than a vaccine if their job was to prevent disease right now? With all the data that we know about vitamin D and healthy diets, right? They'd be mandating burpees rather than mandating vaccines. Like, do you think it's about promoting health? Yeah, no, they'll promote like breast cancer screenings, right? Rather than promoting actually how to not get breast cancer in the first place. You think it's talking about prolonging, enhancing the quality of life. They're talking about enhancing lifespan, not the quality of a person's life there. That's what we do here. We're not on the same page with them, right? What we do here is not medically necessary, but it's necessary for you to be who you were created to be. Dr. Sherry?
Yeah, I agree. I think that as we wrap up, I know we went a little long, guys, but I hope that the key for you is that you pick out 1 or 2 things, whether you start this, whether you start walking. Don't just take the information and go home and put it away. I know that happens a lot. Just don't go home and put it away. Decide what you're going to do, get your action steps, and move forward. So it's not just about entertainment. It's about changing your life. The best thing to do is you start reading something that I presented today or that he went through, and you share the information. The way to own something is to teach it. So spread the word. Tell somebody, hey, I went to this great talk. We do these talks all the time. And I told my kids, I go, you know what? Every time I do a talk, I get motivated. The reason I really want to do this one is because I have to get through the holidays too. And I have to do all the same stuff. And so just sitting here listening to Dr. Osborne talk, spending the hours prepping, got me in my head going, I am definitely getting through this holiday on a good note and avoiding all those things. So I hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope you move forward in the right direction.
So last thing, did everybody get one of these? That's your homework. Read it, okay? Literally just start right there. You will get a copy of we'll email out a copy of the link there. Cheryl?